Hello, my name is Frank Thier, and this is my M6 explanation video where we'll be talking about input and output. So first let's start talking about the scanner class, how to read numeric and string types from a file. So I created this little scanner demo method that we're going to run through our main, and then we're going to use the print writer method, and we're going to tie it all together in the end. So let's start talking about scanner. So first, I just want to show you this because we've probably all seen this before, where we use the system.in parameter for our scanner. And so what that actually is doing is the system.in is an input stream. And so when we're trying to read input from the console down here, that's when we use system.in, because we want that standard input, and I'll talk about that more at the end. But so when we run this, I'm just going to enter something in the console. We're gonna read that, and we're going to add it to our string builder, and then we're going to close that one, just to show that it works. And then what we actually want to look at is our scanner 2 here. So we're actually going to create a new scanner object, and then we're going to pass a file instead of the standard input to our constructor. So it's going to take the file, which is the source, and it's going to create a new file input stream using that source. So it's going to cast it to this readable byte channel, which we don't really need to worry about, but it's basically just how Java turns these bytes and stuff into readable objects and things like that. So we're just going to loop through our file. So this has next just reads that there's more input coming, and then we're going to check if that next token is an integer, and the token is just from the scanner class, which in the Java docs here, we just see that the scanner breaks its input into tokens using a delimiter pattern, which by default matches white space. So we just call each of those little chunks a token. And so we're going to check if the next token is an integer. If it is, we'll use this next int method, which is what you want to use if you are trying to read an integer. And then if that is true and we execute this line, then we're going to just print out reading int. And then if our next token is not an int, we're just going to read that whole line, and we'll print out reading line to show that we have read the line. Of course, we had to catch the exception. And then finally, we will close our scanner and then print out the full contents of that string builder at the end. We're going to return it, and that'll be used for our main method in the print writer. So let me run this, and we can see that it is working. So we'll just enter some standard input here, bam, and just like I promised, our method executed. We took our standard input and we threw it into our string builder, and then we read from a file. So this file that I passed in, the file name, which is entered down here, this test file, we could see the contents of that was a 1, scan me, all these lines right here, or these 3 lines right here. And we can see that it read that integer, it read the line, integer line, which is exactly the format of the text file that we gave it. And it added each line to our string builder. And so that is how you can read a numeric value and then a string value using the scanner to read a file. Let's look at the print writer. So this one, considerably shorter, maybe easier to understand. We are just going to give it a name. So this constructor, if this doesn't already exist, it will create a file using this name. And then we're just going to use the print writer's print line method, which kind of looks familiar to maybe our system.out print line. And we are just going to print the file contents that we pass in to this file that we've created, and then we'll just add this end of printed contents to show the end of the file, and then we'll close that. And so this is all being run from main. Like I was saying, we return this file content string from our scanner demo, and that's what we pass into our print writer demo, and that is going to create our file. And it actually already did when I ran the code. So let me refresh our project here, and we see that our print test file showed up because it had been created. We just need to refresh. And if we look at it, we can see that we have everything that we read from our scanner method, and then we added this line to show that it actually worked from our print writer method. we printed all of those contents that we passed in, and then we added this line, and so we can see that our print writer did actually do what we wanted to. It created a new file, which we can see here. This is how it actually is working, and it did that. And so, just to tie everything together here, the reason I wanted to show you, why how we've used system.in in the past is our parameter for scanner, and now we're using file, and down here, we've created a file output stream, which we saw right here. So these are all standard streams of data, and if we look at our textbook here, it's actually pretty helpful. It'll talk about input and output, and when I'm talking about the standard streams, like it kind of says we're already familiar because we've used system.out, many times when we printed something in the console, and we use system.in when we're reading from the console. And so it's your standard input because system.in by default is just going to read stuff from your keyboard usually. System.out will print stuff to the console, I guess, by default here. And these are streams of data. The system.in is just connecting a source, and so that way that our actual Java program can do something with that. So from our keyboard, using system.in, boom, connected to our program, which is all held in memory, and then it uses an output stream to send it somewhere. In our input and output streams chapter or section here, it uses those things I've shown: file input stream, output stream, print writer, and so if we look, where was that? So the various methods in print writer are designed to output a particular type of data, which would be text. And as you would expect, there's both a print and print line method, because that's usually what we have been using for text. And so that as it's working, it all stores when you're going to read some input, it stores that information into a buffer, which I will show you here. So the scanner class uses a buffer, just like all kind of input. And we can see that right here. So it's actually creating this char buffer with this default size of bytes that's going to use, and it just uses that because it has to store that information somewhere for it to be able to do something with. You can't just read it in and then it would just kind of disappear. So these streams, they use buffers to store the data that you're inputting in this transitory period right here. We have to create a buffer to store that, to do something with it, and then we'll ship it off somewhere. And so this section right here is particularly helpful. Text files are processed by subclasses of reader and writer, and binary files are processed by input stream and output stream. So binary file is just random bytes, and that's what your program is going to use to send and receive information. But when we're using text files, Java, we have these helpful classes reader and writer, which give us a little bit more tailored methods to be able to manipulate text file input, text file output, and we've used that in the past with system.in, system.out. But now we're incorporating files, and it's all using the same sort of like framework. It's just different classes using different methods, but they're all using these streams. They're all using buffers, and we're manipulating data and sending and receiving and sending it to different places, which is basically what your computer is just doing at its most basic level all the time. So hopefully that is a little bit helpful and kind of gives you some sort of insight into scanner, print writer, input streams, output streams. It's really hard to talk about this in a short video, so hopefully I have done that. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, and as always, thank you for watching.